you shouldn't say something just one time. It's not going to resonate with people if you say it once. As your audience grows, they don't know what you said in the past. There's just so many reasons that you need to say something multiple times. What you have will not resonate with people if you just announce it one time. People don't notice announcements. So I just kind of want to bring in a question that was asked when we first started talking about this whole subject of repurposing. And that's, will I sound repetitive if I repurpose? Do I have to worry about that? Is that important? Really, the answer is that's not a concern. Even your most engaged, loyal followers can't possibly consume everything that you've put out. Also consider that as your audience grows, they're not going to know what you said 6 months ago or a year ago, even if it was gold, even if it changed their lives and solved their problems. You need to remove that fear. Instead, be willing to drill that message in and really get it in there. As long as you're taking the value from something and reusing it and not just, beating it to death, you won't sound repetitive. It's not a concern. You need that message to land more than once. It's okay to repurpose your content. You got to get rid of that fear. It not only helps you create content, it helps that message resonate. You should be doing it. So the next thing I want to talk about is just this concept that really plays a lot into resonating content and repurposing content is the fact that it takes 7 credits for your message to resonate. So kind of think of an arcade game for an example. You need to put a few different credits in, a few coins and quarters in for it to actually register and start playing the game. The same applies to your message. It needs to land with the user 7 times before it truly, they can truly internalize what you're saying. Eventually something will happen once you put in enough credits. For content creation, that's when the message lands on an individual. Now, these 7 credits that we're talking about, these can take place across any number of platforms. As long as that person is consuming the message in some way, they just need to hear it 7 times for them to internalize it, for it to resonate. So they might read a blog post on a particular topic. They could see a video, read tweets, get an email. Any way that it comes across, as long as the message is being delivered, they'll eventually internalize it after 7 times. So everybody's really at a different stage as far as your audience goes. A new customer or a new follower might have only heard something one time, but if you've been around for years in someone's audience, that's you might have 6 or 7 credits, and eventually you'll get it at a certain point once you've reached that magical 7th time. The other nice thing about this concept is that your competitors can actually help you out. You want to insert that 7th credit ultimately and start that process and make it click for somebody, because you'll get credited with starting the game, so to speak. But your competitors can help you out. If they're saying the same thing, you can be the one that pushes them over the edge, and they kind of put those quarters in for you. It's like when you go to the arcade and for some reason, some of the games already have a quarter inserted. That's just, think of it as your competitor helping you out there. So a good way to get started doing this is email, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but just consider that and remember that everybody's at a different stage of being, of resonating, and your competitors can help you, prime them. So now I just want to talk about some practical ways that we can repurpose content. Obviously, we know about the value of creating content consistently, the idea of repurposing it. So just want to dive in a little bit on practical takeaways here. The first is to use what's already worked. Use your great blog post from 2 years ago that got more views or more email signups than the others. People don't, new subscribers don't know about it. It's hidden gold on your site to those people. Use what's already worked. Put another credit in, and get that point across. Using what's already worked. People don't look through your old content to find your best stuff. You want to, create a greatest hits album, so to speak. Take out the best stuff and reuse it. Use what's already worked. So the other point that goes along with that is that you shouldn't be afraid to share older content. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I can't say it enough. It's so important. I mean. Most of the time, your older content still has value, unless you're talking about something that's specifically, not evergreen. So if I'm sharing a blog post from 2 years ago on how the impacts of iOS 7 coming out for the iPhone. It doesn't really apply today because that's it's just no longer applicable. But you can't, for the most part, it's okay to share older content. Don't be afraid to dig into those archives and pull out the gold nuggets. You want to keep putting in those credits. The relevance is always more important than the post date. A lot of times people just need to hear the right thing at the right time. It's not necessarily the most recent post that you sent out. It's more about the importance of getting the user that message at a certain time. Just another question I'm pulling in. How much of my content should be repurposed? I don't think there's a hard number there. You want to strike a balance, obviously, between fresh content and older ideas that you're resurfacing and putting a spin on. But again, you do need the 7 credits before a message really sinks in. So I'd like to say almost up to half of your content can be repurposed. I think that's okay as long as you are putting, again, that unique spin on it and providing some sort of unique value. It's okay to use a lot of repurposed content. Another big one is to begin with writing. Ultimately, everything you create is going to begin when you write. And when you write, you don't want to write with any specific platform in mind. You just want to start writing uninhibited. Just write with no restrictions. Because everything you do will originate with writing. Just think about it. Blog posts start with writing. When someone creates a movie, they begin with a script. When you're creating a video, you write down the plans and a storyboard. Everything originates when you write. So just think about it. Emails start when you write. Blog posts, everything just originates with that writing. That's the essence of repurposing content, is taking what you've written and then packaging it up a different way. It needs to start with writing. I really love this quote by Sean McCabe. He's a hand letterer who talks about writing a lot, and this is a great quote. You can't improve what you haven't written before. So really what that means is that once you have it on paper, unless you have it on paper, you can't improve it or tweak it. He uses the phrase a lot, you can't steer a parked car. You have to be going in some sort of direction in order to iterate on that and improve on it. So you can repurpose every piece of what you've written, and I like to play in this illustration of a pumpkin. So you probably have a pumpkin that's rotting away right now. Halloween's over. You think you're done with it. Think of a pumpkin as a piece of content you wrote a year ago. It might be gathering dust. It might be feel like it's rotting away. Really, you can use every part of what you've written a year ago and build something totally new out of it. You can take the seeds, like the little innards, and you turn it into these roasted pumpkin seeds. It's great. You can do the same thing with your content. You can take that blog post from a year ago, and you can take out those little nuggets, those little seeds, and turn them into tweets, season them a little bit. You can reuse what's there. Just take a sentence out and tweet it. I mean, it's brilliant. People don't do it. It's unfortunate because it's really powerful. You could use the guts, the pulp of the pumpkin to create an entirely new piece, like a soup, for example. I mean, it's a whole new dish on its own. Are you guys writing down the recipes or like the content pieces? Sorry. Maybe a soup is like video. It's an entirely new piece of content that someone can consume. Even the outside, things that you don't think can be reused. Think of the skin of the pumpkin turned into chips here. I haven't tried this myself, by the way. Think of that as an email subject, for an example. I mean, it's just, there's so much. You can use every single part. You can even take the handle of the pumpkin, the stem, and repurpose it for a craft. Think of it as an Instagram post or something like that. It's visual, it's interesting, it's crafty and fun. You can do that from a blog post. Just find a way to illustrate something from it. I'll show some examples of that later. I want to talk about just some more practical ways to use your writing and get things out of that. So when you write, again, you should write uninhibited without any specific platform in mind. And ultimately that will leave you with the full text, just the entirety of what you've written. You can use that for so many different things. You can use that and publish it as a blog post. It's kind of more long form sort of content. You can sometimes use it as an email. A lot of times we'll talk about email marketing, more about focused, condensed content that we push out and try to get people to, ultimately go back to your website. But you can use the full text in an email if you would like. If you just want to, if you're really focused on that long game and just delivering that value, you can put the entirety of your writing into an email and send it out and train people to, see the value in what you're sending them. You can create a downloadable guide or an ebook with the complete text of something. There's so much more. That's the very highest level. Obviously, we want to talk about taking pieces out of that. So the next sort of step down is excerpts. For everything you create, you need to create an excerpt of it, a digestible 1 or 2 paragraph format that can be used, for email marketing purposes, for Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook especially works really well when you take just a paragraph out of, don't copy and paste a paragraph, but kind of write about the essence of the message, in your story, and find a way to say that and get that point across in a paragraph. Put that in a Facebook post or a LinkedIn update. You should be creating that with every single thing you write, just because you can repurpose it so powerfully. The next smallest piece I like to call seeds, kind of going back to the pumpkin illustration. This is a sort of one sentence, one line takeaway that's perfect for something like Twitter or an Instagram caption or even Pinterest. You can use that as a caption on Pinterest. Find those one sentence, just those points that really drive it home, and separate them, write them down. These are the seeds of the message, just like the pumpkin. The smallest piece that you can take away and put into one line. With everything you write, you need to think about a way to bring in an image or a photo and capture that somehow. Things like Twitter, the posts are just in a stream of just noise. You can stand out with a photo that's related to your content or an image that's related to your content. Even something like this Lunch and Learn today, we might be taking a photo and putting it up along with just an excerpt of what I'm saying, and repurposing this talk. Again, that plays heavily into Instagram. It's all about the visual on Instagram. If you can find a way to turn your words into a photo and put it on Instagram, people are going to love that. Same with Pinterest. And again, Facebook, a lot like Twitter, you need something eye-catching to stand out from that noise, and drop that in with your excerpt. So really, all these pieces play in together. When you create content, you want to create some of these for everything you write. You also need to think about ways to use video and even audio. So a good example of this is the talk today. This talk started as a blog post. We want to get these concepts across on our blog, and that blog post is going to go out probably this week or next week. But we've repurposed it into, first of all, a talk. You can also see our video teams here, recording it. We're going to be able to have a 1 hour long, video that we can share and get so much mileage out of. We can take clips from that if we really want to drive home specific points. We can extract those from the video and use it again. This all originated from writing. Everything starts with writing. The same thing goes for podcasts and audio. It's actually a form of content that's really going and rising in popularity right now. It seems like everybody has a podcast. Actually, the creator of Product Hunt, Ryan Hoover, said that podcasts are the new blog. That's just how ubiquitous they've become in the past year or so. The big thing here, you don't have to release what you've written immediately. I know I've already said this, I just want to drive it in some more, because so many people do this. They hit that publish button immediately as soon as they're done. You need to get your content in a queue. You need to think about when it makes most sense. Plan your content. When does it make sense to push it out? Remember that importance of consistency. You got to get it in that schedule. That queue and that backlog is so important. You never want to break that. Just think about when you should publish something. Just give that thought. Be intentional about it. Repurposing evergreen content. You want to repurpose something that makes sense to be repurposed, something that's always relevant. If you're a menswear company, you don't want to create a great visual style guide on what to wear to the beach this summer, but then turn it into a video and release it in November. It doesn't make any sense unless you're going to the beach in November for some reason. Same thing with like, you remember the dummies books, like Windows 95 for Dummies. That's not evergreen content. That's something that's, that was relevant once, but it's not anymore. It's hard to repurpose things like that. You typically want to just, stick with things that are evergreen and that are always relevant. This is a huge one. You need to embrace and value the platform strengths. So what are the strengths of these platforms? What do they do best? Every platform does something especially well. Every single one is different, and you need to treat every platform as unique and put in the care and attention. Again, I can't say this enough. You can't copy and paste across every different website and channel. That's not what repurposing is. It's adapting things for particular platforms and playing to their strengths. So something like Twitter, for example, I brought this one up first because this is something that I see so many people getting wrong. To me, it's the platform that the most people are just totally missing and not using properly. Twitter, as we all know, can be extremely powerful. You can build an entire audience just on Twitter. Most brand tweets end up looking something like this. It's got the Facebook URL tacked onto it, which means it was just automatically set up to shoot over from Facebook. It doesn't have anything of value just looking at it. It's part of the noise. It's the car in traffic that's part of traffic. Just read our latest blog posts we put online. You don't even know what it's about. You don't even know where the link goes because it's a Facebook link, an fb.me. I mean, if you're doing this, you need to stop doing it because it's telling people that you don't value their attention. It's telling people that, this is a poor reflection on your brand. It shows that you're just shoving content at them. You don't care what it is or what it says. It's not intentional in any way. It's not using the strengths of Twitter. It's just giving content out and hoping it lands and sticks. You need to be more intentional than that. Here's a better example of something intentional that really uses the strengths of Twitter. You need to ask yourself, what value can I say in a link without requiring someone to click a link? That is really the sort of secret to engagement. It's what can I put here right now that doesn't require them to click a link to learn more. That's ultimately people want to drive people to their website, but you have to play the long game sometimes and think about what value you can give away to enhance the perception of your brand by putting something directly into a tweet and stand out, from the noise. So Facebook, I'll talk about that a little bit. Again, this is something that plays well to shorter content in an image. So we talked about excerpts before, taking your full piece of content and taking out an excerpt and rewriting it, finding another way to say it in a paragraph or two. Facebook is the place to use excerpts, really. An excerpt combined with a photo and image. You want to create some sort of value in the post itself, which is why the excerpt is so important here. You need to be creating those excerpts for everything you write, just a brief little passage. Much like Twitter, you should not be worried about people clicking the link to learn more. You want to have value in the post itself. Ultimately, do include a link, to learn more, but ultimately the way to share things is, and have things, get more attention is to put value in the post itself. Posts with visuals and photos tend to do a little bit better on Facebook, so obviously you'll want some sort of photo to go along with your post and stand out a little bit. Instagram, I have a great example here, but you want to create a visual from what's relevant to your content. So you want to, again, take that photo, take that image out, and find a way to get your message across like that. Really, you want to be intentional about it. It's not you can't take a screenshot of the text and put it on Instagram. You need to be purposeful and mindful about what Instagram does well, and that's really showing photos, usually artistic, interesting photos. So this is a great example. Sean McCabe's quote we looked at earlier about you can't improve what you haven't written before. He's a hand lettering artist, so he really took advantage of his skills, and he found a way to repurpose that phrase, you can't improve what you haven't written before, and found another way to say it and use his hand lettering expertise to put it in this form. He found a way to say it in different words. Deciding where to start is the enemy of starting. You can't steer a parked car. That's just taking that message and adjusting a little bit and then playing to the strengths of Instagram, which is that strong visual that's going to pop up for people. You just, again, this is something that applies to every platform. You want to play to their strengths. Instagram is all about that visual, that photo, but yet it says so much, and it creates that a good perception around the creator. So again, I really want to drive this one home. You need to be intentional and consistent and provide unique value on every single social post. If you can't provide unique value, and when I say unique value, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's some sort of different takeaway, some sort of different value that someone actually gets out of it. How does it get them a step closer to solving the problem? You need to provide unique value on every single post. Every post should be different, and needs to find a unique way to say what you're trying to get across in every single post. A lot of people aren't leveraging video because a lot of times it takes effort. This is another one of those things, it takes a little bit of work, unfortunately. But you can create so much from it. You take a piece of writing and you restructure it into video. Again, this is what we're doing today with this talk. We're filming video. We're gonna get so much mileage out of something that began with writing, that video that we can pull bits and pieces out of. Again, everything starts with writing, but you can repurpose that into a video. That could just be you talking about the subject or the message a little bit. It doesn't have to be a huge production. It can just be some sort of video content going out. Video resonates really well with people because of how personal it is. Email, I want to go a little bit more in depth about email because it's another thing that a lot of people get wrong. It's just misused a lot of times. Email, just to be clear, is still the most efficient way to reach an audience. You want to provide value in every single email that you send out. It needs to answer people's questions in some way. It needs to help them with their problems. You shouldn't be making announcements over email. You should be adding value in every email. Again, you want to provide unique value in everything you put out. You need to train people to open your emails. You need to train them that every time they open it, there's something valuable, there's something in it for me in here. Email is extremely powerful when you use it that way. When you start training people and setting the expectation that there's something more, there's something valuable in here, that allows you to send with more frequency. There's nothing wrong with sending daily emails as long as your audience knows that there's something valuable in it for them, that they're going to get something out of it. There's nothing wrong with sending frequent emails if there's value inside of it. So I just want to talk, just being the UX guy, I need to talk a little bit about getting more email signups. This kind of strays a little bit from the repurposing message, but like I said, email is something that can be leveraged because it's so great. It's just so powerful. But anyway, getting more email signups, you want to provide some sort of value before you ask for that email address. You want to provide some sort of initial value. That might look like, a download, an ebook, some sort of article. Just you want to give something before you ask. Again, every good relationship starts with giving before asking. So this download, whatever it is, we call it a lead magnet. That lead magnet is key to growing that email list. That starts a relationship out on a good note, on a good foot. And it's a perfect example of giving value first. You also want to ask for only an email address. This is something that a lot of people don't do. They ask for, first name, last name, city, company, title, everything. You don't need to do that. You just want to ask for an email address. Every additional field is another jump-off point. It's another barrier to getting them, from over here to your list. You need to have the subscriber before you can pull information out of them and figure out what they're struggling with. You want to make it as easy as possible to sign up for the list. I'll talk a little bit later about how to really bring this to the next level. So when someone does sign up for an email, for your email list, you need to answer a few very specific questions. You need to address these things. First, what am I getting right now? What are you giving me in exchange for my email address? So again, that's the lead magnet we were just talking about. What are they going to get immediately when they sign up? What am I going to get later? What are you going to be sending me? What am I signing up for? Are you going to just spam me all the time, or are your experts going to deliver some sort of value to me? Are you going to have interviews with, with important people in our organization talking about how we can help you? Or is it just, buy my product, buy my product? You need to answer that question and really set the expectation right from the beginning. You also want to answer, how often am I going to get something? Are you going to send me this every day? Is this once a week, once a month? Just set the expectation. You will see subscriber numbers increase when you answer these questions and when people know they're not having to guess what is in it for them. The next tip for emails is focusing on a single subject at a time. You're relying a lot on a subject line and kind of your perception when you're sending an email out. If you have 10 pieces of content being promoted in your email and somebody doesn't open it, that's 10 things they missed out on. You want to focus on one thing at a time. You don't need to send an email out for your latest piece of content. It can just be just one thing that's relevant right now. So maybe right now it's, how to get people to purchase for the holidays. It could be just something that's relevant right now. You want to focus on one subject at a time. You can get more mileage out of what you've written if you send, one at a time and then just increase the frequency of that. The relevancy, again, is more important than the recency, how often, or when it was posted. Another thing to keep in mind, this is more of a mindset shift. Email is a one-to-one interaction. It's not 1 to 10,000. You shouldn't be thinking about email blasts. You shouldn't be using that terminology because it puts you in the wrong mindset. The essence of email is, just at its core, is that it's a conversation. It's one person talking to another person. You don't want people to feel like, they're an afterthought or they're just a number on a list. These are individual people with true problems. Just remove the phrase "blast" from your vocabulary. It's not fair to your readers, and it shows that you aren't thinking about their experience and what they're getting out of it. So just another strategy around creating content, repurposing content, is to create content around the questions your audience has. This is something we did with this Lunch and Learn. Actually, if you looked at your confirmation message when you signed up, we asked, what are you struggling with right now? What are your challenges when it comes to creating and repurposing content? What that did was it allowed me to, extract the answers from that, or the questions from that, and answer them so that I can really resonate with more people that way. The content resonates because it's what real people are actually struggling with. It solves real challenges. You'll feel like you're reading, your users will feel like you're reading their minds when you're answering questions that 10 people are asking you. When you're solving real challenges and taking content from real people's questions, it's fantastic. You can get so much out of that just through answering questions. I just want to cover a few things about taking this to the next level. What can you do once you have repurposed content? How to apply everything that we've just talked about. You want to make the next step as painless as possible. You've inserted those credits. You've captured their email. You've given some sort of value away. You need to set the expectation of what someone should be doing next. Make it really clear. I need, most users do this next, or don't say that obviously, but you want to show them and guide them down a path and send them towards an action. It'll be easier to do that if you've provided value already. You also want to give before you ask. Just consider the rule of reciprocity. You will see more results when you give and then ask, and give repeatedly before you ask. You need to provide something of value to someone, something that really solves their problems and challenges. They need to trust you. Communicate with your audience. Again, nothing we send out should be one-way communication. Social media is a conversation, it's a discussion. Email, it's one-to-one, not 1 to 10,000. You need to communicate with people and understand their challenges and understand their struggles, because you can repurpose their content, take their questions, write a blog post about it, make a Facebook excerpt about it. There's so much you can do when you communicate with people and just directly ask them, what are your problems? What are you struggling with? Now, a big one here is to automate the send, not the creation. So we talked about that Facebook and Twitter example of what it looks like when we automate Facebook postings and just shoot them over to Twitter and shove content at people. We don't want to automate the creation of the content. You can automate the actual sending of the content. So it's okay to schedule a tweet you've created from your content seeds and send those out. Send the actual the automated tweets, but just don't generate auto-generate content. You do want to write everything yourself. Don't have a robot do that for you. It's not fair to your users. They need to hear from you because you have something valuable to add to their lives. You also don't want to schedule the same message to go out multiple times. Again, repurposing isn't copy-paste. It's finding a way to give unique value and a unique spin on what you're saying. I guess another good use of automation as far as sending goes, but not creation, is email courses. This is kind of a new thing that's come up in the past couple of years, but email courses are, when someone signs up for your email list, you, for the next week or so, send them a daily or weekly automated message that helps them with a problem. This can be used as a lead magnet. So you can say, sign up for our email list, and for the next week, we'll send you on tips to, do whatever the problem is, help you with your business. You write those posts once, automatically schedule them to go out. You're scheduling the send, not the creation. You're sending them to go out for the next week, have those land with the users, and then they get value for you for a week. It's something that you write once that just keeps giving and giving and giving to every single person who signs up. There's just so much there. So really, I hope all this was helpful and that you can apply these ideas. Repurposing content is just there's so much more to talk about. It's such a valuable thing you can do. Just think, if you take one thing away, just remember that you want to create some sort of unique value and be consistent in your content output. So find a way to say something that you've already said in a different way. That's really the message here. So again, I hope everybody can apply something from this and take something away. And thanks for listening.